Somewhere in the vast blue waters of Arabian Sea lies an island that looks like it belongs to another planet, an island where the trees grow upside down, where the strange white deserts meet the jagged mountains, and where the plants exist that cannot be found anywhere else on the earth. This mysterious place is called Socotra Island, but what makes Socotra so strange that many scientists that call it the most alien-looking place on Earth? Imagine walking across a landscape filled with bizarre umbrella-shaped trees that seem to bleed red sap. Picture giant bottle-shaped plants rising from the ground like the natural sculptures, and imagine discovering the creatures and ecosystems that have evolved in complete isolation for millions of years. It sounds like something from a science fiction movie, yet it is completely real. For centuries, sailors traveling across the Arabian Sea spoke of a remote island filled with unusual plants, powerful medicine, and landscapes unlike anywhere else in the world. Some believed the island was enchanted, others feared it was cursed because reaching Scotia was never easy. Strong winds, powerful currents, and extreme isolation kept most travelers away. For thousands of years, this island remained separated from the rest of the world, allowing nature to evolve in ways scientists are still trying to understand today. How did such strange plants evolve here? Why do so many species exist only on this island and nowhere else on the earth? And what secret might still be hidden within its mountain cave and ancient landscapes? In today's journey, we will explore the incredible mystery of Socotra Island, a place so unique that it almost feels like stepping into another world. Welcome to one of the strangest islands on the earth. Our planet may seem well explored in the age of satellites, global travel, and advanced science, yet even today Earth still hides so many places so strange and mysterious that they challenge everything we think we know about nature. Almost most Among the most fascinating of these places are remote islands. Scattered across the world's oceans are islands that appear almost unreal, places where landscapes look alien, animals evolve in bizarre ways, and history lives behind strange and something unsettling stories. Many of these islands were isolated for millions of years, cut off from the rest of the continents by the vast stretches of waters. Over time, this isolation allowed nature to follow its own unique path. On some islands, plants grow in shapes that seem possible; on others, animals have developed unusual features found nowhere else on Earth. There are islands covered in the poisonous creatures, islands born from volcanic eruptions within our lifetime, and even islands where human history has left behind abandoned cities and hunting ruins. These islands are not only beautiful, they are also mysterious. Some have ecosystems so fragile and rare that scientists are still discovering new species today. Others are surrounded by legends passed down through the generations by sailors and travelers who once feared approaching their shores, and in some cases, the conditions of these islands are so extreme that they remain among the least visited places on the earth. Isolation is often the key to their uniqueness. When the plants and animals evolve without the outside influence, they can develop into forms that look almost alien. Scientists call this process evolution in isolation. It has produced some of the most extraordinary life forms ever discovered. These isolated ecosystems act like natural laboratories, allowing researchers to study how life adapts. survives and changes over time. But isolation can also create mystery. Why do certain species survive only in one small location on Earth? How did this strange landscape form? And what secrets might still remain hidden in the places that very few humans have ever explored? Among all the unusual islands scattered across the ocean, one stands out as particularly extraordinary. Located far from the major continents, this island is famous for its bizarre trees, rare wildlife, and landscape that seem belong to another world. This island is Socotra Island, often described as the most alien-looking island on Earth. Socotra has fascinated scientists, explorers, and travelers for generations. Nearly a third of its plant life exists nowhere else on the planet, creating an environment unlike any other place in the world. But Socotra is more than just the strange plants. It is a living window into how life evolves in extreme isolation and a reminder that even on our modern planet, nature can still surprise us in the extraordinary ways. In the next part of journey, we will travel to the remote location of this mysterious island and discover where exactly Socotra Island lies on the map of our world. To truly understand why Socotra Island is so unusual, we first need to look at where it lies on the map of our planet. Far away from the crowded cities and busy trade routes, Socotra sits quietly in one of the most remote corners of the Indian Ocean region. The island is located in the Arabian Sea, a vast body of water that forms the part of the northern Indian Ocean. More specifically, Socotra lies between the Arabian Peninsula and the Horn of Africa, placing it at a unique crossroads between the Middle East and the Africa continent. Politically, the island belongs to the country of Yemen, even though it sits hundreds of kilometers away from Yemen's mainland coast. Despite being part of Yemen, Socotra feels like a completely different world due to its isolation and unusual natural environment. If we look at a map, we can see that Socotra is located about 380 kilometers or roughly 240 miles south of the Arabian Peninsula. The nearest point of the mainland of Yemen is across open sea, making travel to the island historically difficult. At the same time, the island is only about 240 kilometers away from the coast of Somalia in the East Africa. This geographic position places Socotra between two major regions of the world, yet it remains separated from both. Because of these distances, Socotra has spent millions of years developing in relative isolation. The island itself is surprisingly large. In fact, Socotra Island is the largest island in the Socotra archipelago, a small group of islands located in the Arabian Sea. Socotra measures roughly 132 kilometers long and about 42 kilometers wide, covering an area of approximately 3,800 square kilometers. To visualize this size, Socotra is larger than many well-known islands that has enough space to contain a wide variety of landscape and ecosystem, and those landscapes are incredibly diverse. Along the coast, visitors can find long stretches of wide sandy beaches and turquoise waters. Moving inland, terrain quickly changes into the dry plateaus, rocky deserts, and rugged limestone mountains. One of the most striking features of the island is the Hagio Mountains, which rise dramatically in the center of Socotra. These mountains reach heights of more than 1,500 meters, creating cooler climates, and unique habitats for rare species. Because of its location in the Arabian Sea, Socotra also experiences powerful seasonal winds known as monsoons. During the certain months of the year, these winds become so strong that boats cannot safely reach the islands. For centuries, this natural period kept the islands separated from regular trade and travel. This isolation played a crucial role in shaping Socotra's strange natural world. Unlike many tropical islands filled with dense rainforest, Socotra has a semi-desert climate. The landscape is dry, rocky, and often harsh. Rainfall is limited, and strong winds constantly shape the island terrain. Yet, despite these difficult conditions, life has adapted here in extraordinary ways. Scientists often describe Socotra as one of the most isolated biodiversity hotspots on Earth because the island has been separated from the mainland for millions of years. Plants and animals evolved independently, creating species found nowhere else on the planet. In fact, nearly one third of all plant species on Socotra exist only on this island. This remarkable isolation is exactly what makes Socotra so fascinating, surrounded by open ocean, shaped by mountains and desert winds, and separated from the continent for millions of years. The island became a natural laboratory of evolution. But its location alone does not explain why Socotra looks so different from the rest of the world. In the next part of our journey, we will explore what truly makes this island famous, the strange landscape, bizarre plants, and otherworldly environments that have earned Socotra Island the nickname the most alien looking place on Earth. At first glance, Socotra Island does not look like a typical island on Earth. Many tropical islands are known for their lush jungles, colorful coral reefs, and familiar palm trees swaying along the sandy beaches. The Socotra is very different. The moment travelers arrive, they often feel as if they step into another planet. What makes this island so strange begins with its environment. Unlike most tropical islands, Socotra has a dry and harsh climate. Large parts of the island are covered with rocky plateaus, limestone cliffs, and dusty valleys set by strong winds and limited rainfall. Instead of dense forest, the landscape often appears sparse, rugged, and almost prehistoric. This unusual environment has forced the plants and animals to adapt in extraordinary ways. Over millions of years, the island's extreme isolation allows species to evolve without outside influence. Because Socotra has been separated from nearly continents for such a long time, many of the plants and animals here develop unique forms that cannot be found anywhere else on Earth. Scientists estimate that more than one third of Socotra plant species are completely unique to the island. Scientists estimate that more than one third of Socotra plant species are completely unique to the island. This level of biological uniqueness is extremely rare and is one of the main reasons why the researchers consider Socotra one of the most important biodiversity hotspots in the world. But it is not the only number of the rare species that makes Socotra mysterious, it is the way these species look. Some of the island plants have shapes so unusual that they seem almost unreal. The most famous example is the legendary dragon's bark tea, a tree with a strange umbrella-shaped canopy that spread wide like a giant mushroom. From a distance, the entire forest of these trees create landscapes that appear more like a science fiction movie than a natural ecosystem. Even stranger, when the part of this tree is cut, it is releases a deep red resin that looks like blood. For centuries, this mysterious substance was collected and treated as a valuable medicine and dire, adding to the island's reputation as a place of natural wonders. Another feature of Socotra ecosystem is how the plants survive the island's extreme conditions. Many species here evolved thick trunks, swollen bases, or unusual shapes that help them store water during the long dry periods. Some look like a giant bottles rising from the ground, while others resemble the twisted sculptures carved by nature. The island's landscape are equally unusual. The Scotia contains a surprising variety of environments packed into a relatively small area. Towering the mountains rise from the island's center, while deep caves stretch beneath the surface. Vast limestone plateaus are caged by wind and time, creating strange rock formations that look both ancient and mysterious. In some areas, the land feels almost untouched by human activity, and that is another reason why Scotia remains so fascinating. Compared to many islands around the world, Scotia has remained relatively isolated from the large-scale development. Roads are limited, infrastructure is sparse, and many regions of the islands are still difficult to reach. This lack of modernization has helped preserve the island's fragile ecosystem. However, this isolation also means that parts of Scotia remain poorly studied. Scientists believe that there may be still undiscovered species hiding within its mountain valleys and cave systems. For traveler and explorer, this sense of mystery is part of the island appeal. Scotia feels like a living museum of evolution, a place where nature followed its own strange path for millions of years without interruption. And yet, despite all that, scientists have learned about the island. Many questions remain unanswered. Why did such unusual plants evolve here? How did the ecosystem survive in such a harsh environment? And what secrets might still lie hidden in the remote corners of the Socotra Island? In the next part of our journey, we will explore the island's unique wildlife, strange plants, and extraordinary natural phenomena that make this place unlike anywhere else on Earth. If Socotra Island is famous for anything, it is the extraordinary life forms that exist there. Because the islands have been isolated for millions of years, plants and animals evolved in ways rarely seen anywhere else on Earth. In fact, scientists estimate that nearly 90% of Socotra reptile species and a large percentage of its plant life exists nowhere else on the planet. This makes Socotra one of the most biological unique islands in the world. One of the most iconic symbols of the island is the strange and legendary dragon block tree. At first glance, this tree looked like unnatural. Instead of growing tall branches with scattered leaves like most trees, the dragon's block tree spread out outward into a dense umbrella shape. The top of the tree forms a thick canopy that blocks the sunlight from reaching the ground below. Scientists believe this unusual shape helps the tree survive Scotia's harsh climate. The umbrella canopy reduces the water loss and captures moisture from the air, allowing the tree to survive in extremely dry conditions. But the mystery of this tree does not end with its shape. When the part of the tree is cut, it releases a dark red sap that resembles blood. For centuries, this resin was harvested and traded across the Asian civilizations. It was used as medicine, dye, incense, and even in the traditional rituals. Because of this strange characteristic, the tree became known as the Dragon Plot. That the island's strange plant life does not stop there. Socotra is also home to bizarre plants like the desert rose, a plant that looks like something from a fantasy world. Instead of a thin truck, the desert rose grows a massive swollen paste that stores water, allowing it to survive long droughts. From this post paste grow delicate pink flowers that bloom across the rocky landscape, creating a beautiful but surreal contrast against the island's dry terrain. Another remarkable plant is the Socotra cucumber tree, a rare species that exists only on this island. Unlike the common cucumber plants that grow close to the ground, this species grows at a tree with thick branches and unusual fruit. These strange plants create ecosystems that feel unlike any other place on Earth. But Socotra wildlife is just as fascinating. The island hosts dozens of bird species, many of which evolved exclusively in this isolated environment. Rare birds such as the Socotra starling and the Socotra sunbird can only be found here, making the island a paradise for ornithologists and the wildlife researchers. Reptiles are also abundant because mammals are relatively scarce on the Socotra. Reptiles became one of the dominant groups of animals on the island. Many species of geckos and lizards evolved independently, adapting perfectly to the rocky desert and the mountain slopes. Beyond its wildlife, Scotia geography adds another layer of wonder. The island contains towering mountain ranges, vast limestone plateaus, and deep cave systems. Some caves stretch for kilometers underground, forming mysterious tunnels that remain only partially explored. One of the largest cave systems on the island is located within the Hagir mountains, where the underground chambers contain stalactites and the stalagmites formed over thousands of years. Along the coastline, dramatic cliffs drop into the turquoise waters of the Arabian Sea. In certain areas, the powerful ocean currents crash against these cliffs, creating spectacular waves and natural sea arches caked by centuries of erosion. Scotia also experiences the powerful seasonal monsoon winds, which shape the island's landscape. During the certain time of year, these winds become so intense that transportation to and from the island becomes really impossible. These extreme weather patterns helped preserve the island isolation, preventing the large-scale human development and allowing nature to evolve undisturbed. At night, some visitors even report seeing glowing waters across along the coast caused by microscopic organisms known as the bioluminescent plankton. When the waves move through the water, these tiny organisms emit a blue glow, creating a magical effect that makes the ocean appear to shimmer in the darkness. All of these elements, rare animals, alien-like plants, dramatic landscape, and unusual natural phenomena, combine to make Scotia one of the most extraordinary ecosystems on Earth. But nature is only part of the story. For centuries, humans have also been drawn to this mysterious island, leaving behind stories, legends, and historical mysteries that continue to fascinate explorers today. In next part of our journey, we will uncover the historical stories, legends, and strange events connected to the Socotra Island. Long before the modern scientists became fascinated with the strange landscape of the Socotra Island, this island already held a powerful reputation among the sailors, traders, and explorers who crossed the water of the Arabian Sea. For centuries, Socotra was known as a mysterious and distant land, a place surrounded by myth, unusual plants, and valuable natural resources. Some of the earliest written references to the island appeared in the ancient Greek and Roman records. One of the most famous mentions comes from the maritime guide written in the first century known as the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea. This ancient text describes Socotra as an important stop along the trade routes connecting the Africa, Arabia, and India. According to these early accounts, merchants traveled to the island to collect the valuable goods such as dragon's blood, resin, aloe, and rare aromatic plants. These natural products were highly prized in the Asian medicines and trade networks. But for sailors navigating the Arabian Sea, reaching Socotra was never easy. The waters surrounding the island were known for their powerful currents and unpredictable monsoon winds. Many ships struggled to approach its rocky shores, and some never returned from their voyages. Over time, stories began to circulate among the sailors about shipwrecks along the island's dangerous coastline. Even today, the seas around the Socotra are known for strong currents that can make navigation difficult. Beyond these maritime dangers, Socotra also developed its own rich cultural traditions. The people of the island speak a unique language known as the Socotra language, an ancient Semitic language that has been preserved through the oral tradition for generations. Unlike many other languages in the region, Socotra was historically not written down, meaning stories, poems, and legends were passed down one generation to another entirely through the spoken storytelling. Many of these traditional stories describe the island's unusual landscape and the mysterious plants. Some legends claim that the strange trees of the Socotra were gifts from the ancient spirits that protect the land. Others suggest that the red resin of the dragon's blood tree symbolized the blood of mythical creatures that once inhabited the island. While these stories belong to folklore, they reveal how deeply the island's unique environment shaped the culture of its people. Over the centuries, Socotra also attracted the attention of the foreign powers because its strategic location between Africa, the Middle East, and the South of Asia. The island became an important point along the maritime trade routes. Various empires attempted to control the island at different times in history. One of the most dramatic events occurred in the early 16th century when the Portuguese empire briefly occupied the Socotra. In 1507, forces led by the famous Portuguese commander Afonso de Albuquerque captured the island. The Portuguese hoped to use Socotra as a military base to control trade routes in the Indian Ocean. However, the plan quickly proved difficult. The island's harsh environment, limited resources, and strong winds make it challenging for the Portuguese to maintain a permanent settlement. After only a few years, they abandoned the island and moved their operation elsewhere. Despite these attempts at the foreign control, Socotra remained relatively isolated of its history. The isolation preserved many aspects of the island's traditional culture, but it also meant that a large part of the island remained unexplored for centuries. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, European explorers and naturalists began arriving on Socotra with growing curiosity about its strange plants and wildlife. Many of them were astonished by what they discovered. Early scientific expeditions described the forest of the dragon, blotchy, strange pot-shaped plants and animals that seemed completely different from those found anywhere else in the world. This discovery confirmed what scholars had suspected for centuries. Socotra was unlike any other island, yet even with the modern research, the island still holds mysteries. Remote caves in the mountains remain only partially explored. Some archaeologists believe that ancient inscriptions and artifacts may be still hidden within these caves, offering clues about the early visitor who once traveled to the island. Other researchers are fascinated by how the island culture survived in such isolation for so long. From ancient trade routes to mysterious legends passed down through the generations, Socotra human history is just as fascinating as its natural environment. But the story of the island does not end with its past. Today, scientists, travelers, and conservationists are increasingly drawn to Socotra, eager to study, protect, and understand one of the most extraordinary ecosystems on Earth. In the next part of our journey, we will explore why scientists and explorers remain fascinated by Socotra Islands today, and why protecting this remarkable island becomes so important for the future. Few places on Earth capture the curiosity of scientists and travelers quite like the Socotra Island. At first glance, the island alien-looking landscape are enough to spark the global fascination. Forests of the umbrella-shaped tree, stream portal-like plants growing from the rocky soil, and dramatic mountain landscapes make the Scotia feel almost unreal. But for scientists, the true importance of Scotia goes far beyond its strange appearance. The island is considered one of the most valuable natural laboratories in the world for studying evolution and biodiversity. Because Scotia Island has remained isolated for millions of years, plants and animals developed in ways that rarely seen elsewhere on Earth. When species evolve in isolation for long periods of time, they often develop the unique characteristics that help them survive in specific environments. This process, known as evolution, that is exactly what makes Socotra so scientifically important. Researchers studying the island have discovered that a large percentage of its plants and animals exist nowhere else on the planet. These species are known as endemic species, meaning they evolved in one specific location and cannot laterally be found anywhere else. The island's famous dragon tree is one of the most recognizable examples of this phenomenon. By studying how these unique plants survive in harsh conditions, scientists can learn more about how life adapts to extreme environments. Some researchers even believe that these studies could provide insight into how plants might survive in the future climates affected by the global warming. Socotra is also important for geological research. The island's unusual rock formation, limestone plateaus, and the mountain ranges provide valuable clues about the geological history of the region. Some scientists believe that Socotra was once connected to the ancient land masses that later separated due to the movement of the Earth's tectonic plates. By studying the island rocks and landscape, geologists can better understand how continents shift and how isolated ecosystems develop over time. Climate researchers are equally interested in the island. Socotra sits in the region strongly affected by powerful monsoon winds, the seasonal weather patterns that influence much of the Indian Ocean region. These winds shape the island climate, vegetation, and even the way the animals behave. Studying how the ecosystem survive under such intense seasonal winds help the scientists better understand how the environments respond to changing weather patterns. But Scotia is not only fascinating for natural scientists, anthropologists and cultural researchers are also deeply interested in the island people and the traditions. For centuries, the inhabitants of Scotia lived in the relative isolation from the rest of the world, preserving a unique culture and language. One of the most remarkable aspects of the island culture is the Socotra language, a ancient Semitic language that has been down orally for generations. Studying this language and the island's traditions help anthropologists understand how the cultures adapt and survive in the remote environments. Beyond the scientific world, Socotra has also become one of the most intriguing destinations for adventurous travelers. Unlike many popular tropical islands filled with resorts and large tourist crowds, Socotra remains relatively untouched. Infrastructure is limited, roads are few, and large-scale tourism has not yet transformed the island's natural landscape. For travelers seeking rare and authentic experience, this makes Scotia's incredibly appealing. Visitors can hike through the surreal forest of the Dragon's Blood trees, explore vast limestone places, and watch the turquoise waters of Arabian Sea crash against the towering cliffs. At night, under a sea filled with stars and far from the city lights, the island offers a atmosphere that feels timeless and untouched. Many travelers describe visiting Socotra as dipping into another world, a place where the nature and still flow ancient rhythms and that existed long before the modern civilization. However, this growing interest also brings the important challenges. Scientists and conservationists are increasingly concerned about the protecting the fragile ecosystem of Scotia because so many species on the island exist nowhere else. Even the small environmental changes could threaten their survival. Efforts are now underway to study and preserve the island biodiversity while carefully managing their tourism and development. In many ways, Socotra reminds us of something important. Even in the modern age of statelized global travel and advanced technology, our planet still holds places that feel mysterious, strange, and largely untouched. Islands like Socotra Island reveal just how diverse and extraordinary life on Earth can be, and perhaps more importantly, they remind us how much is still left to explore, understand, and protect on this remarkable planet we call home. Imagine standing on a remote island in the middle of the Arabian Sea, surrounded by silent broken one by only by the sound of the wind and distant waves. The landscape before you feel unfamiliar, almost otherworldly. Across the rocky plains, strange trees rise from the ground like living sculptures. Their wide umbrella-shaped crowns stretch outward against the sky, casting long shadows across the dry earth. These are legendary dragon blood tree, one of the most iconic and mysterious plants on Earth. From a distance, entire forests of these trees look like a giant mushroom growing across the island hillsides. The air is warm and dry, carrying the scent of the salt from the nearby ocean, and in the distance, the rock peaks of the Hagir Mountains rise sharply into the sky, their rocky slopes glowing gold under the afternoon sun. Clouds drift slowly above the mountains while the powerful winds sweep across the island plateaus, shaping the land as they have done for thousands of years. Below the cliffs, the water of Arabian Sea shimmered in the shade of deep blue turquoise. Waves crash against the jagged rocks, sending white spray into the air. Sometimes the seabirds circle high above the coastline, gliding effortlessly on the wind. Among them are rare species only found on this island, quietly continuing the rhythm of the life that had been existed for centuries. As evening approaches, the island begins to change. The sunlight softens into the warm shades of orange and crimson. Shadows grow longer across the landscape, and the strange silhouettes of Socotra plants create shapes that look almost mythical. The silence deepens, far from the noise of cities and modern civilization. Socotra feels timeless, a place where nature moves at its own pace. When the night finally falls, the sky above the island becomes a vast ocean of stars, almost with no artificial light. The stars shine brighter than in most on Earth, stretching endlessly across the darkness along the shoreline. The waves sometimes glow faintly blue as tiny organisms in the water create a natural bioluminescent shimmer, standing there in the quiet darkness surrounded by alien landscapes and ancient ecosystem. It becomes easy to understand why Socotra Island has captured the imagination of explorers, scientists, and travelers for generations. It is not just an island. It is a reminder that our planet still holds places of wonder, places where nature has written its own strange and beautiful story over millions of years. As our journey across Socotra Island comes to an end, it becomes clear that this remote place is far more than just another island in the ocean. It is a living reminder of how extraordinary and diverse our planet truly is. In a world where the satellites map every corner of the Earth and technology connects the distant continents in seconds, it might seem as if there are no mystery left to discover, yet places like Scotia quietly challenge that idea. Isolated for millions of years in the Arabian Sea, Socotra Island developed a natural world unlike anywhere else on Earth. Its strange forests of dragon blood cheese, its rare wildlife, and its dramatic landscape show us how life can adapt and evolve in remarkable ways. Every valley, mountain, and rocky plateau on the island tell a story shaped by time, wind, and isolation. For scientists, Scotia represents one of the most valuable natural laboratories on the planet, a place where the process of evolution can be studied in its most fascinating forms. Each plant and animal species on the island offers clues about how life responds to extreme environment and long periods of separation from the rest of the world. But the importance of Socotra is not limited to science. The island also reminds us of the delicate balance that exists between the nature and human activity, because so many species here exist nowhere else on the earth. Protecting this fragile ecosystem has become an international priority. Organizations like UNESCO has recognized the importance of Socotra natural heritage, and the island is now listed as a Socotra archipelago UNESCO World Heritage Site. This recognition helps ensure that the future generation will still have the chance to witness the island's unique landscapes and the extraordinary biodiversity. Yet beyond the science and conservation, Socotra offers something even more powerful, a sense of wonder. Standing among the forests that look like something from another planet, watching the ocean stretch endlessly toward the horizon, it becomes impossible to not to feel a deep connection to the natural world. In moments like these, we are reminded that Earth is not just a familiar home, it is a planet filled with astonishing diversity, hidden ecosystems, and landscapes that still feel mysterious. Socotra Island is only one example among many strange and remarkable places scattered across our world, from isolated islands to unexplored caves and deep ocean changes, and our planet continues to hold secrets awaiting to be discovered. And perhaps this is what makes exploration so meaningful. Even today, in the 21st century, there are still places that inspire curiosity, imagination, and art. Places that remind us that nature's study is far from finished, and somewhere out, out there beyond the horizon, another mysterious island may still be awaiting to reveal its secrets.